Let the Justin Fields era begin.
Oh,
And as a side note, 18 points off of Boz's toe. Pleasant good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Shenderovich, and Fishman Steeler postgame show right here on our Oneberg Facebook channel, Oneberg YouTube, or maybe you're listening back on our Spotify channel. I am Ed Troop. He is Brian Carruthers. And Brian, the Steelers victorious in their Week 1 game with Justin Fields as their starting quarterback, not Russell Wilson, as the Steelers defeat the Dirty Birds, the Falcons, 18-10 on the road this afternoon.
I keep hearing you say the name Justin Fields. Did he play?
I don't know. Did he? I thought that was Russell Wilson under center today.
Wait, was it? I mean, who was even out there? It seemed like the same old Steelers, right? I mean, a team that just can't get a lot going offensively. We have some weapons, but yeah, thank God, Chris Boswell. What did the guy say? What did the jabroni say from CBS? He's the most consistent in the history of the NFL for over 50-yard field goals. Thank God Almighty.
Yeah, he hits several field goals today. The Steelers, no touchdowns in the end zone, but Chris Boswell converting from 50-plus yards, 257-plus yard field goals in this football game. Thank God for the Steelers, it was indoor. That's at Acrisure Stadium. I don't know if the Boz is getting all those 57-plus field goals to go through. But, you know, one of the most interesting points of this football game, man, was late in the game, the punter, Johnston, gets hurt, gets roughed. They don't call roughing the punter. He was blocked into by the defender, but he's hurt. He limps off. They got to bring in Boswell to punt, and Boswell nails it from inside the 10-yard line. He hits it all the way to the Falcons' 40, pins them back on the other side of the 50. That was a big moment because the Falcons were starting to get some momentum.
Yeah, Boswell had a day, right? I mean, he did everything he could with his foot besides literally put Justin Fields on his back, and I guess arguably you could say he did. So Boswell did everything. He's our MVP. He lives in Atlanta, so he probably was feeling those good hometown vibes, and it was good to be there. But yeah, it's funny. I was watching the game with my son Cy, and we were watching it. And when they brought Boswell out, and that guy was like, "Here comes Boswell from 57." It doesn't even phase kids anymore because when they play Madden, they kick field goals from like 75 yards. Like that was like a close little pump jump squib for him in the world of Madden. So hey, look, let's just keep playing Madden ball, hitting these 60-yard field goals and winning.
Absolutely, and the kickers in the NFL have gotten so talented over the years that you're right. It used to be, and we talked about this on the Three Rivers podcast earlier this summer. It used to be that kickers, anything over 45 or 50 yards was very rare. Well, now it's almost normal. Some of these guys are hitting 60 yards, 61 yards. So,
dude, if you can't go over 50 consistently, there's no room for you in the NFL anymore. Because of these moments, right? You have a lot of teams that can move the ball 10 yards after a kickoff. And by the way, I know we want to talk about how weird these opening kickoffs are. It's the most bizarre thing to watch these guys go and not move, and then all of a sudden they break. But yeah, to your point, yes, Boz had to do it. And if you don't, this game's Madden, man. You need a quarterback that can throw 500 yards consistently, and you need a kicker that can kick over 50 yards. Here's the problem. Not so fast, my friend. We do not have a quarterback that can throw 400 to 500 yards a game. We're limping out of there with what were Fields' numbers? Do you know? Did he throw for over 100? I mean, it didn't feel like it.
Yeah, Fields ends up coming in, I think, with we'll get his final numbers here in a second for you. 156 yards passing,
Okay.
no touchdowns, no interceptions. But one thing that he did very well was.
Wait a second, weren't we screaming last year at this time when someone threw for 150 yards and no touchdowns? We were screaming, "Fire Canada!"
But listen, Justin Fields makes it look sexy, baby. He makes it look sexy, baby.
He makes football look good. And this is what they said out of Chicago was, when you try to monitor what fans are saying and media is saying is they were happy to say goodbye to Justin Fields is he does make bad look pretty. And whether that means he's moving his feet a lot, there's a lot of action to it. You just kind of get like pulled into this game where like there's just not much going on.
Hey, we welcome your comments here on Oneberg on our Facebook channel, YouTube, And we have our first comment here, Brian. Here you go. This is from Trowel Marshall Hiking. I don't
That's
think
my
that's his
buddy.
real.
That's the trail marshal.
There's the Trail Marshal. He says, "How do you not go with Fields? He had so much. He had so much to work with. TDs will come. Dude is exciting. Wilson will make a great captain from the sideline."
Well, look, here's the truth. Fields actually is our best shot. And let me just go down the road on this. Russell Wilson, Denver paid him $30 million not to play for them this year, or however amount that was.
Right.
Fields could have figured out what to do in Chicago, but they weren't happy. And don't forget, the 3 starting quarterbacks that we had on our team last year, Trubisky, Mason Rudolph, and of course the great one, Kenneth Pickett. They aren't even good enough to be starters on the teams that they went to. So we have 5 jabronis, and Justin Fields is the best option.
He's exciting, man. And you look at his numbers today, 17 of 23, 156 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. But here's a key stat, 14 carries for 57 yards on the ground. He averaged 4 yards every time he took off with the football today, had that long run of 12 yards at one point. But, Fields gives you that dynamic, something the Steelers have never really ever had. And that's have a mobile quarterback that can take off in high pressure situations. The pocket collapses. He steps up. He picks up first down yardage.
Hey, let me show you something real fast. I was working on it at the end of the game. This just went up. Everyone's excited about it. Our friends at the Gateway Clipper and your friends at Oneburg, we moved over. We had a trash talk billboard leading up to the game today. We had Hot Lanta, more like not Lanta, and then we had Pluck the Dirty Birds. We just got this up right now. We're super excited. You can see it on the Parkway. All hail the Wizard of Boz. That's on the Parkway. All hail the Wizard of Boz. I'm really excited about it. That'll be up for the next couple days. All hail the Wizard of Boz, as thanks to our friends at the Gateway Clipper for having some fun with us today.
That is awesome, man. That is great. Who came up with that? That's your creativity, right? Not
well,
mine.
Listen, no, I want to give a shout out. There is such the Gateway Clipper people are so great, but there is such a talented person there by the name of Patty Goyette, who is like the all-star. Like, if you go in the rankings, you have Terry Reganis, the leader, of longtime leader. Then you have his family who's part of it. And then Patty's in there as the creative. And then there's a bunch of captains who steer the boat. Patty's got a lot of creative say, and she's texting me during the game, and we're making up ideas and whatnot. So all hail Chris Boswell, but also all hail Patty Goyette at the Gateway Clipper. Very creative.
Good stuff, man.
How about some comments? We got some comments.
Good stuff. Yeah, let's get to them. And this was my next subject I was going to talk about. Kathy checks in. Kathy Barrett says, TJ should have 4 sacks on the books today. Feel sorry that 2 of his strip sacks didn't count. How about the penalties in this game, man? And she's exactly right. Kathy's right. Several times Watt gets home, makes a big play, and then there's a defensive penalty that wipes it out. I thought Watt and the Steelers secondary really shined in this game. Highsmith had a good game. Deshaun Elliott with the 2 interceptions, the key one there at the end. But man, TJ Watt continues to do TJ Watt type of things. He takes over football games, especially late, makes big plays when they need it, and ultimately wins the game.
Yeah, he looked great. But again, it's early, right? Week 1, game 1, all these things. But it feels awfully familiar where we have a really strange offense, and we're going to rely on Watt to be a Pro Bowl caliber player, maybe even Hall of Fame player, every single down, every single game. So Kathy Bonanos Barrett. She is right, my friend. You're right again, Kathy. But those 2 that he lost, man, that was big, because that could have been the turning point of this game, like earlier than, when we finally won.
I also thought another key moment too was, fourth quarter power running drives by the Steelers, Najee Harris, Jalen Warren. They go for it on 4th down and they don't get it. Fields takes a quarterback sneak. Everybody, including our deceased grandparents, knew what was coming, right? That Fields was going to take that football and try to go for it across center. Falcons pounced on it. If they kick a field goal there.
Did you just create your own Tomlinism there when you just said everybody, including our deceased, everybody, and of course, obviously, our deceased grandparents knew that we were going to run it?
Right.
Obviously.
That was with 7:03 to go, obviously.
Right,
And
right.
if they kick a field goal there, they go up by 8, but a touchdown obviously puts the game away too.
Yeah.
But the defense answers. They go 3 and out on the next offensive set by the Falcons. And again, that Steeler defense continued to shine in the second half.
Hey, there's some comments. Put up Deanna Vance if you can for 1 second. Deanna is one of the biggest Pittsburgh trolls that we have, and I see she's watching the show. She just said, "Good, the D." Wait, is that her? Yeah, their D keeps them in the game again. They win in the 11th inning. Then I saw that she said, "Good job playing Wes Mifflin. Justin Fields should be bagging groceries." What a hater. I mean, I don't know. It's week 1, but this lady hates everything. Let Warren run the ball, draft the QB. That's the most that's the best critique she's given. Normally she'll say things like
like this.
watching grass grow. Now, she's not wrong on that. But Deanna P. Vance. Man, what a hater. Play a hater.
Alex doesn't agree with you, my friend. And Alex, I tend to agree with you. He says, terrible take. His mobility was the reason we kept the drives going. He also doesn't call the plays. When he was asked to throw the ball, he made some good throws for the most part.
All right, so you and Alex think that this was a dominant performance. Tonight, Al Michaels and Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth or Tom Brady are going to say, and oh my God, did you see in Atlanta? What a coming out party for Justin Fields. Let's get this gold coat ready for him.
Well, he didn't lose the game for him. He managed the
Okay.
game well. He didn't turn the ball over. That's all obviously a very obvious. Now you got me saying obviously. You got my Tomlinisms coming
Obviously,
up.
and I also saw
now,
that Robert, who is always on one bird all the time. I guess Tomlin just said in his news conference. We'll address that Tuesday.
Tuesday. Well, hey, here's some breaking news for you too.
Wait, Deanna P. Vince is a he?
Yes. So we apologize, Deanna. So there you go. I wanted to break that news.
That dude, his name is Deanna?
Maybe we're mispronouncing it. I don't know. Well, maybe we should go back on here.
We're already off the rails.
Hey, the other part today too, man. I thought George Pickens had a huge game. Really, and they took some shots downfield with Pickens, something we didn't see in this offense. The last couple of seasons, he finishes with 6 catches for 85 yards from Justin Fields. And again, he had a big catch in the first half that got called back on a penalty as well. But man, George Pickens looked really strong today for the Steelers on that offense. And one thing I liked about Arthur Smith and this offense was they took some shots downfield to Pickens. They mixed things up too. They actually threw on first down. How about that?
That's something you don't see a lot in Pittsburgh.
They threw on first down. They mixed things up, and they ultimately on third down converted third downs by throwing the football down the football field.
Well, kudos to George Pickens. Now, we shouldn't be surprised, right? He's been touted as one of the greatest talents we've had at wide receiver since AB. So it's good to see him come about. Here's the only thing to keep an eye on that really made me concerned about our boy George Pickens. At the end of the first half, when Pickens got that nice throw from Fields, it still looked like something was happening, even though we were running out of time. George Pickens did not know how much time was left in that first half. And for him, he had no awareness. Now, his own dumb luck saved him by stepping out of bounds, but he had no awareness of his position around the 30-yard line, and he had no awareness of the time. That's something that's going to be very concerning if this is a serious team.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to be aware of the situation. Luckily, he got out of bounds with a second left, and that enabled Boz to come in to make that field goal for the Steelers.
But not lucky. That's the wrong term.
Halftime.
I mean, luckily, he didn't get. He's in his own stupidity, of his own greed, not knowing, understanding the game. He stepped out of bounds. I guess it was a miracle that he stepped out of bounds.
Oh, he almost stayed in bounds. And by the way, we got confirmation.
Right.
We got confirmation. Vince. It's not Deanna. It's Vince Deanna. Deanna is his last name. So, Vince, we will call you Vince from here on out, my friend.
Whatever. There's too many tricks with this guy. Okay, you're a man, you're a woman, your name's reversed. I can't keep up with it. We got 500,000 people on this site. I'm sorry, Deanna. I can't keep up with it.
Kathy checks in. Doesn't matter. A win is a win.
Yeah.
And gold.
Well, what do you think, Ed? You're a diehard Yinzer. You've been sweating this season since the beginning of July. You have to be thrilled 1-0, whether you take it by 40 points or take it by 1. We're in the same spot that Kansas City's in, who won by a toe on Thursday night. So, like Tomlin says, we'll exit stage left.
And, they go on the road and win. And winning on the road in the NFL is not an easy task for any football team, regardless of the situation. So, to get a road win in Atlanta against the Falcon team, at least on paper, was very improved in the offseason, new coaching staff. They bring in Kirk Cousins. Cousins looked very sharp early on. I was kind of concerned after that first drive or two, moved the ball downfield pretty easily, but the Steelers defense regrouped. And how about the
Well,
crowd in
Cousins looks
Atlanta?
very, very good, though. Cousins looks good, and he's the veteran quarterback you hope if Wilson finds his way onto the field that at least he can play with some poise. Cousins reminded me of when Peyton Manning played in Denver, where he just did a lot of game management, not a lot of risks, not a lot of problems. This is just kind of like clockwork for him. I hope that Wilson can do that because that's not going to be Fields' game. We're gonna have a lot of ups and downs with Fields.
TJ Watt gets 4 tackles today, 2 solo, 2 tackle for losses, and a sack. And as Vince mentioned earlier here on our program, could have had three more. Yes, Vince Deanna. One thing was the penalties.
That's crazy.
One thing to note were the penalties today too during this football game. Both teams very highly penalized. Of course, it cost the Steelers several times throughout this game. Trying to get the final numbers as I go. Here we go. Team stats. The Steelers today, let's see, penalized 9 times for 60 yards. The Falcons 5 for 34. So 9 times for 60 yards, and they were all crucial moments too, in which the Steelers had some big plays. How about the George Pickens offensive interference call, where he barely touched the defensive back?
This is the weakest. I mean,
brought it back.
This league cannot get weaker, right? I'm sorry, and whatever the Jabron announcer said, he made a good point. Pickens, as an offensive player, isn't even allowed to touch the defender, but the defender can do everything they want. He didn't extend his arm. He didn't even do a 2-hand shove. He made a little distance, which I think is like reasonable NFL distance. The guy didn't even sell it. He didn't fall over or even threw his hands up. I thought if this is where we're going to go with wide receivers, it's going to be a long season for NFL fans.
I think so too. I mean, you can't have these games decided by penalties. You hate to see that, and not that this game was, but it could have been. I mean, that was a critical moment in the first half. Hey, how about the crowd in Atlanta? Steeler Nation shows up again on the road. TJ Watt and that crowd took over that football game in the second half, especially in that fourth quarter. Watt's going like this, and man, it felt like a home game in Atlanta today. Steeler Nation shows up, and the players always talk about it, man. It definitely makes a difference when they're on the road.
Well, also remember, I lived in Atlanta for a couple of years. Atlanta, Georgia is Georgia Bulldog country first, no matter what. So it doesn't matter what happens in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium because they won over the weekend. They're still ranked number 1. Those rankings came out first. So the Georgia games, I think, are kind of like a leftover party. So, it is what it is, but that's Georgia Bulldog country down there.
Our friend Brian Alfera checks in. Lots of bad calls that could have changed the game. And also we have Vince Deanna checks in with this. Greg Olson is awful in the booth. What did you think about the announcers today? Tom Brady's announcing the Browns game right now against the Cowboys.
Is he? I didn't know that. They didn't promote that at all. Tom Brady is announcing a game today. What? How did I miss that? No one said that.
And did you know Justin Fields started at quarterback today for the Steelers? Did you know that?
I heard that. Now, here's the thing with Olsen. Now, he got the boot, right? Not to get too deep into the broadcasting part of it, but if we're going to touch on everything here on the Shenderovich, and Fishman postgame show here on Oneberg, salute the Twins and Fishman. But if we're going to talk about the broadcasters, Olsen got screwed, right? He was like the number 1 guy for Fox, along with whoever the replacement for Joe Buck was. They get booted out, or I guess he gets booted out. Tom Brady moves in. And now somehow Olsen found himself in Atlanta in week 1, although Brady's in Cleveland of all places. But Olsen just looks like a big thing. Like if you made someone out of stone, or get a big stone, you chiseled him away. Like that's Olsen. Like he's just like a big freaky piece of rock.
Olsen's huge, and compared to the play-by-play announcer whose name escapes me right now from today,
I think it's Jabroni Jones.
He was double the size of him. His head was double the size of the play-by-play guy. I mean, it was unbelievable. If you looked at the side shot, it was like this compared to that. I mean, it was unbelievable. Hey, a few more stats here just to finish up. Najee Harris, 20 carries for 70 yards today. I thought Harris ran with authority on the ground. Man, he had some really tough runs today, lowering shoulders, just a power running type of game. And he's in a contract year. The Steelers did not pick up their option or do a new contract with him. So this will be his final season as a Steeler unless they re-sign him in the offseason. He's playing for a contract, and you could tell that here today.
Is he? Because if I was him, I'd be sitting there thinking, well, Cam Hayward got a like mayor of Pittsburgh contract. He just got free money that probably is going to expire on him when his body explodes. Pat Fryermuth, who caught like 400 yards last year, he just got $50 million. And the only guy who's getting beat up week in and week out is Najee. And they were like, we'll see how you do. I think he's playing for another team.
Steelers defense, very good today, too. As we said, they hold the Falcons to 10 points. Big plays today. TJ Watt, we talked about a little bit earlier here in the program. But how about Alex Highsmith? He had a nice game on the other side today. And then in the secondary, Deshaun Elliott with the 2 interceptions, one at the beginning and one at the end. He's the free agent they picked up from Dallas. And Dante Jackson, another guy that they got in the Deontay Johnson trade. He looked good today, too, at the other corner position opposite of Joey Porter.
Yeah, Elliott looked good. And, Porter and Highsmith are guys who are making those moments happen for guys like Elliott, right? They're closing down the field in a fast way, and now Elliott can expose it. So that's great, man. I don't know how you leave a game on any level after having 2 interceptions and not take it to next week against Denver with a lot of confidence.
Cousins goes 16 of 26, 155 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. Robinson, their star running back, they hold him to 68 yards. A lot of that 68 came early in the game. He was running all over the Steelers, but they make some adjustments and they hold him to only 68 yards. And then from a receiving standpoint, Kyle Pitts had that 1 touchdown, the star tight end. But other than that, Drake London, who's their big star receiver, they limited him to 2 catches for 15 yards today. But the leading receiver on the Falcons today for Steeler Nation out there, Ray McCloud, the former Steeler, 4 catches for 52 yards.
Yeah, Ray.
You didn't have that on your Steeler Sunday bingo card, did you?
I did not. I was happy to hear for Ray. I thought that he got a bum rap, when Roethlisberger's final year or Pickett's first year. Ray was like all we had on the Steelers for a while as far as like receivers go. I hated to lose them, so I'm a Ray. And one, how can you not root for a guy who has 2 first names that are the same? And 2, I think he's always been like a very dominant physical player. So I'm a Ray McCloud fan. Let me ask you a question. Since you're doing all the questions, let me ask you a question, Ed. Is there a player that we lost this offseason, whether they decided to leave or we wouldn't sign them, that you missed today on the field that you thought we could have been next level if we would have just kept Deontay Johnson or, God forbid, Mason Rudolph? Was there somebody that you walked away from and thought they complete us?
No, and I think that goes to tell you where this Steeler team was at the end of the 2023 season. They were, I don't want to say they were in shambles, but they had a lot of improvements to make in the offseason. Shedding Deontay Johnson and getting rid of all your quarterbacks and starting over in that quarterback room. I'm trying to think who else they lost in the offseason that might be. I can't think of anybody, so that answers your question right there. But it just showed you that how bad this roster was after that playoff loss to Buffalo in January, that Omar Khan and that front office had to hit the reset button for this team and kind of not start over, but revamp in a lot of ways. And I thought it paid off. I thought the offensive line wasn't perfect today. Not really good run blocking, especially in the first half. But they showed some signs too, and that offensive line's young. They got 2 rookies and also Broderick Jones in his second year, so a very young offensive line that I think will get better throughout the season.
And shout out to Zach Frazier, right? He came into that role today. It was a little clumsy throughout, but again, that was his first start as well. And I thought, minus a couple issues in the beginning where Fields fumbled on his first snap, and there was a couple things in that first drive or a few drives in the first half. He looked good. So I agree with you, man. To be determined, right? I mean, let's not forget last year at this time, we were coming into the season with such high hopes. We were like talking Super Bowl. after we had a dominant preseason. George Pickens is the greatest. Kenny Pickett is the greatest. And the San Francisco 49ers humbled us in the worst way. Like, I don't even remember ever being that shocked after watching a sporting event with so much hype. And, Yinzer hype, of course. Let me say I overhyped it probably in my own mind. But, leaving today, fine. We didn't score a touchdown. Chris Boswell had 7,000 field goals. We win. The defense looked good. Nothing majorly terrible happened. Compared to where we were in week 1 last year, I think this is okay. So if I had a big whiteboard behind me, I'd say overall, okay.
Okay, I agree, man. I remember we came on and did our first ever post-game show a year ago, and we both were like, what did we just witness the last 3 hours to the 49ers? Of course, went on to win the NFC last year and make it to the Super Bowl. But football's such a game of momentum. These seasons are such a game of momentum. So to get out to a 1-0 start, always better than an 0-1. And in the way they started out last year, you mentioned an 0-1 in a really terrible way. Another highlight today, how about the return of Calvin Austin in special teams, the punt returner. Several good punt returns today. Something the Steelers have lacked forever is a really good returner on special teams. Ray McLeod was kind of one of those guys a few years back. But Calvin Austin, I thought, looked pretty good today returning punts, setting the Steelers up towards midfield several times.
Yeah, looked good. No, nothing to write home about, nothing major, but this is a tough game to talk about, right? Because you don't know if the Steelers are good and the Falcons are good. You don't know if the Falcons are bad and the Steelers are bad. And this was like a dud off. Like in week 15, you will know what these teams are really about, right? Or you don't know who's good, who's bad. You're still trying to figure out it. And that's why I think it's so important for teams like us who are always going to be on the bubble until we find that true winning quarterback for us. We need these games because these were the games we lost last year that, we had to start creeping into the playoffs. Baltimore losing by a toe on Thursday to Kansas City still puts them in the same position as the Falcons. We're in the same position as the Chiefs. But if you look at the Ravens and the Steelers, well, that one toe, that affects us a lot more than any other team because I think we'll be battling them down the road. So that toe, and a lot of people said that, maybe that won't matter. Maybe it won't, but last year it did. We needed all those games to get in. We need all those games to get in on. So, this first week, win these games no matter what. And I think Kansas City's living proof of that, and so are we.
Let's check in on some more comments here on our Oneberg Facebook channel, Oneberg YouTube, or maybe you're listening back on our Spotify channel. It is the Steeler post-game show here for week 1, sponsored by Shenderovich and Fishman PC. Glad you could join us here on Oneberg. I am Ed Troop. That is Brian Carruthers. And Alex checks in. He says, that broadcast was rough today. How about the camera coverage on that Fields to Pickens bomb? Woof. That was the big pass play, and they went with an aerial shot instead of like the traditional shot. Fox, we're not used to seeing Fox, the NFL on Fox, right? Most of the games are AFC covered on CBS, so we don't get many games on Fox. But, yeah, man, people are digging in the weeds on these broadcasts.
Well, first of all, Alex is not Steven Spielberg. I need to see some home movie footage that he's gotten of his kids or his car. And before I'd say that Fox is horrible per Alex, I need to see some of his work. But it is weird for an AFC city like us to tune in. Like the robot makes no sense. The music makes no sense. Even Fox and CBS are always trying to outdo each other in different ways that I think are really strange. Fox really went all in on strange angles last year and the year before. It looks like they've gone it a little bit normalized now where they've given up, but they really had that like PlayStation Madden look going for a while, and it doesn't work in real time. It works in the video game, but I was glad to see that wasn't happening today.
I agree. Kathy says Ray, Juju, and Alu. So checking in with just some former Steelers. Maybe that's who she misses. I'm not sure. Alex says we are one Browns loss away from leading the division, and that goes into my next point. The Steelers with this victory, there's some other good news there too, because of course the Ravens lost, as you mentioned, Brian, several times to the Chiefs by a toe, game of inches, right in the back of the end zone. The Super Bowl champs this past Thursday night beat the Ravens. The Bengals lose today to the Patriots. The Bengals lose at home, 16-10. Jarrett Mayo, the new head coach, steps in for Bill Belichick in his first game as the Patriots head coach, and the Patriots defeat the Bengals 16-10 today at Cincinnati. And right now, the Browns are leading the Cowboys at home 3-0, that game in the first quarter.
Yeah, I mean, I see that whatever his name, Deanna or Vince or whoever it is saying it pains you to cheer for Dallas. I don't even know if Dallas even matters that much to Pittsburgh anymore. Maybe for like our parents or our grandparents if they're still alive.
Right.
But I don't know. We don't really see it that much anymore. But there's no issue in my mind. You want a Browns loss today, no matter what you feel about the Cowboys. So you're always rooting for every team that's playing the NFC Central, just like us. Wait, am I talking about baseball now? We're talking about the AFC. Wow, I lost my North. Pardon me, the AFC North. I was just looking at a baseball score. So you're always rooting for the North to lose, except for the Steelers. So yeah, there's no confusion here. Let's go Dallas.
Joe checks in, says the Fox Sports robot slander is an American treasure. I guess that's the Fox Sports.
No.
I guess that's the robot. I don't know.
Wait, that guy said that the Fox robot is American treasure? It's barely even like a graphic. Like it isn't even filled in the right way. And I don't know. I always felt like also Joe Buck, who's not on Fox anymore, and Troy Aikman, I just felt like they made fun of the robot behind the robot's back.
They did, and those guys are two of the best in the game right there that are on ESPN Monday Night Football now. Hey, some team stats just to kind of wrap up the stats for this week. The Steelers.
By the way, how boring was the Steeler game that every comment about camera angles, Greg Olson's jaw, and the robots?
Yeah. I mean, in 18, when you have your kicker go out and makes 6 field goals.
Right.
Not too. Speaking of sexy, we were talking about that earlier. That's not too sexy, that's for sure. But it gets the job done, and they're 1-0, and that's the main thing. The Steelers are 1-0. They get it done. But they did outgame. These are all these important stats in my opinion.
And also, I always feel like perspective is important here. If you switch perspectives on it, if Atlanta did this to us, we would be very devastated right now.
Oh yeah.
Not on how they did it to us, but we would be nitpicking all the minutia of it because we're 0-1, and 0-1 means something in the NFL in a really passive way. College football, 0-1 is like the end of your season before it even began. Passively, you can worry about 0-1, but man, it's good to be 1-0 no matter how you get it.
The Steelers, 16 first downs, the 15 for Atlanta today. These are some important categories I always look at.
Can you bring up Kathy's comment real fast too, who just commented? Because she is right on this. This is the thing from the broadcast that is most shocking.
Yes.
Terry Bradshaw is almost Weekend at Bernie's. His hair. I mean, no, there's not a stylist at Fox that was like, "Hey Terry, let's just do a couple things here." And I know he's bald and I know he's old, but yeah, it's like Kathy. He's like not propped upright, like he's hanging over and like he's not listening. Somehow Lee Corso has become more awake during broadcast than Terry Bradshaw. I don't know how it happened.
It's funny when you were looking at Bradshaw during that pregame. I don't watch very many pregame shows to begin with. I kind of think they're useless amount of time with all the information out there leading up. But they're still a big part of these networks, right? The pregame shows. But Bradshaw almost looked like he was signing the Declaration of Independence.
I know. I feel terrible about this. Ed we lost Ed because of something technical. And I know where he was going. He was ready to say that Bradshaw looks like he's ready to sign the Declaration of Independence, which is a funny joke. That would have been Ed's first joke of the year that really killed. And he lost. Do we have him back? He's back.
I'm back. I got a phone call on my library. One thing I'm learning on these broadcasts is you got to hit that little do not disturb while you're doing these podcasts.
Dude, start over again because that's a funny joke. So I'm going to end my thought on Bradshaw. I'm going to say, Ed, what did you think about Bradshaw? Because it is funny. You good? So Terry Bradshaw looked pretty old. What do you think, Ed?
Well, I think he looked like maybe like one of the original signers of the Declaration of Independence wearing one of those wigs. Now, I know you're going to run with that on Weinberg, and there's going to be some meme here in the next 2 hours George Washington with one of those wigs signing the Declaration
Yes.
of Independence and Terry Bradshaw. But seriously, what's my man doing? He's got like some type of long mullet looking. Just shave it all off and do what I do. I could have the Bradshaw if you wanted to look at it.
Yeah, Bradshaw is a mess, unfortunately. I mean, all respect to King Terry, of course, but yeah. But you know what? Keep getting that money, right? I've seen. I just caught up on what's it called? Growing Up Bradshaw or We Love Terry, whatever his reality show was. He's got a lot of beautiful women in that house, a wife, some daughters, and they want that Bradshaw money. So we're going
That's
to keep
right.
that going as long as we can. We're going to prop him up like he's a scarecrow out in a field until Fox stops paying those checks. And remember, here's some kudos to Fox. Um, CBS loves for people to come and go. They announced, they brought in Matty Ice today, Matt Ryan from the Falcons, and congratulations. Nobody's talking about Boomer anymore. No one's talking about Phil anymore. So if we're looking to congratulate corporate companies who oversee these broadcasts, they've stuck with this Bradshaw crew for a very long time. And I'm confident that we'll actually watch Bradshaw die on live television.
As he's signing the Declaration of Independence. Oh man, that's good stuff. Hey, for the third and final time, I will try to get through these statistics. Not that it even matters. Everybody's more intrigued by Terry Bradshaw. But the Steelers outgained the Falcons today, 270 to 226. And finally, my friend, time of possession always important in these games. The
Yeah.
Steelers 35 minutes 36 seconds to 24-24 for Atlanta, so they keep the time of they win the time of possession, they win total yards, and they win first downs. That's usually a good combination in the NFL to win football games, and the Steelers got it done today.
Hey, put up Braden's comment. Braden Santa Canegalio. Number 12 needs a haircut and a pause on the Russian potato juice. Now, what claim is Mr. Santagalaniano saying here right now? That Terry Bradshaw is drinking during these broadcasts? I hope you can back that up, sir.
Maybe. I'm not sure, man. He looked rough. He looked rough, and I think Lee Corso's doing. And Lee Corso's like 95 now, isn't he? He's still the best.
I don't want to jump to subjects here, but I love College Game Day, and I don't really watch a lot of college football. I enjoy it, sometimes even more than pro, but I love College Game Day. They've figured it out. It's so fun. But this Lee Corso, man, I love him. It's sad. I feel bad, and Kurt Herbstreit and now Pat McAfee, they all work to keep him like relevant and not make mistakes. And it's really sweet to watch Herbstreit with Corso kind of protect him a little bit. But you got to wonder, man, when ESPN is going to be like, let's say goodbye to Lee. Like, let's send him out with the biggest fanfare ever. Let's bring every college marching band together at once and play some song for him. But my man, I just prefer Lee to be now at home.
Kathy checks in one more time. Bradshaw is still better than Chris Collinsworthless.
Oh, Chris Collinsworthless.
People hate Chris Collinsworth in this town. Man, I mean,
looking ahead to the Steelers season, we're going to see Collinsworth, 3 times? We have 3 Sunday night games or 2? Dallas is 1, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they have a few on Sunday night. I don't think he's that bad. I think Collinsworth does a nice job. I don't think he's a Steeler hater. I'll tell you who's a Steeler hater is Bart Scott, if you ever watch him on ESPN, man. That guy's still bitter about his days with the Ravens and the Jets and when the Steelers used to beat him with Roethlisberger and company. That guy's bitter.
I never understood the Collins. I mean, I jump into it, of course, because I think people are like get riled up by it. But I don't know. I've watched the same games that I feel like all these Yinzers have. Collinsworth he's forgettable in my book. I don't think there's a Steeler bias that Collinsworth has. I'd say there's more of a bias for the guys who cover the Steelers weekly for CBS more than that. I don't see it, but it does feel good to make fun of Chris Collinsworth. Everybody needs an enemy out there, guys. I had an interview with the City paper, and they said, "Why are you making fun of Kenny Pickett so much?" And I said, "Because he's a comedic enemy of Pittsburgh, and we need comedic enemies for people to rally behind." And I would say Chris Collinsworth is in that category. He's just a comedic enemy. I don't think he does us dirty.
I agree with you. Hey, before we wrap it up here for the Week 1 postgame show, I'm waiting. I'm anticipating. I need to know, and I know you know the answer to this question. Did the Pirates lose 3 of 4, or did they go 2-2 this weekend? What happened today?
Well, they lost both of their games yesterday in dramatic fashion to the
It,
Washington Nationals, and today they won 7-3. So they split the series with the Nationals. We just called up a young catcher. Not a catcher. I don't even know where we put him. God, what's his name? Scott or Jimmy Scott or something. He started his Bucko career with a double. So congratulations to him. And I'm depressed. I've actually fast forward and I'm thinking about spring training 2020. Ed, are you there?
I'm sorry. Are we still talking about the Pirates? My fault.
Ed, are you there?
I'm sorry. Oh. Are we still talking about the Buccos?
That way. But you know what? You're a Steeler guy. I'm a Pirate guy. This is your time of year. The Pirates have no say. They've made no claim to take up any space on this show. So back to you and back to your Steelers.
I'm sorry, man. I know you're Bucko proud. I just had to throw it out there. Hey, look, they had a good first half of the season. Things were good till August 1st, and then the world fell apart. But at least
I'm looking at these names. Kathy Kampanapos Barrett. She just said, "Great show, guys. Thank you, Kathy. I agree with you." I think Kathy was the person who came up with our billboard this week for the Trash Talk billboard. Is that true, Kathy? Was that you? That name is now.
See if she comments.
I think she came up with the one Hotlanta, more like Notlanta.
I love Kathy's Facebook profile pic here. Pittsburgh Steelers win. I wonder if she just changed that today whenever they got the win. So, yeah, here you go, my friend. Live on the air.
That's her. Hey, congratulations, Kathy. That was great. And now next week we're thinking about maybe a salute to Myron Cope where is it Yonko the Broncos?
Oh yeah, that's
we might go old school with a salute to Myron.
That was deck the halls, deck the Broncos, ga 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 da 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 da. Yeah, Yonkos, the Broncos, Yonkos, deck the Broncos. Look it up on YouTube. He did a whole Christmas carol about the Broncos, and it was to the tune of "Deck the Halls."
Here's the thing: I was hoping that we could trash talk Denver for paying for Russell Wilson, but my prediction is that we will not see Russell Wilson next week. Back to just some serious football talk. I think Mike Tomlin again has a serious problem. Russell Wilson's going to say he's ready. Justin Fields is going to say keep me in, and it's this mediocrity and mediocre battle of what do we do. And I hope we don't get lost in it. I hope, truthfully, just like the people were saying in the beginning, and I concur, keep Wilson out, make him permanently our second string quarterback. Let Fields go until maybe he's destroyed or maybe we lose so much that it's humiliating. But I don't know. I don't think Tomlin's very good in making decisions like this. He proved it with the three wise men for the last 2 years, Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, and Mitch Trubisky. He had no idea what to do.
I agree. And I think it's going to be talked about all week long. Do you start Fields or Wilson next week?
And here we go. This is the only thing you don't want as a fan of a team is a quarterback controversy. And you just said it. Yeah. This will be the talk all week. Wilson, Fields. It's just when you got two, you got none.
And in the NFL, I mean, they especially early on in the season, they're smart. They designed this game schedule a lot around storylines. And this was supposed to be the storyline for week 2. Steelers at Denver and Russell Wilson going back to Denver. That was a big play for this upcoming week. But now, I agree. Russell Fields, Justin Fields looked good enough today, I think, to sustain that quarterback.
At this point, I'd take W.C. Fields as our quarterback.
As our president. I think he's the president. I'll talk about the Declaration of Independence with Terry Bradshaw. That has to be a meme on Oneberg later tonight. I want to see it. Let's go.
Hashtag retire Terry.
Hey, let's wrap it up, my friend. Steelers victorious 18-10. It is the Senderovich, and Fishman Steeler postgame show here on Oneberg. Brian and I will be back next week for week 2 after the Denver game. And we'll have the Three Rivers podcast this upcoming Wednesday with Mark Cabali. Mark Cabali is supposed to be joining us on the podcast this upcoming Wednesday.
Great one. Mark Cabali. That's the new Pat McAfee contributor, the WWE contributor. And here's what I want to ask Cabali when he comes on. This Athletic, right? The Athletic. How did they pay him? What is this? And what are they doing? So, and why did it take so long? Like, I'll be interested in talking to him. And my friend just texted me and said, you have 2 cups today. I do. One, Crystal Light iced tea. And we're not being endorsed by Crystal Light. here on the Shenderovich and Fishman postgame show. Crystal Light's not giving us no money here on the Shenderovich and Fishman postgame show. And the other cup, Ed, black coffee.
Oh, man, my man, 5 o'clock in the afternoon and still drinking the coffee. Now you're speaking my language. One other programming note before we wrap it up. Breaking news as well. This upcoming Friday, live from Moon High School, Brian and I will have the pregame show that we've been doing on Oneburg these last few weeks, usually around 6 o'clock on Friday night, live on the field. We preview the top 5 games in the WPIL. And Brian, you'll be joining me on the field at Moon High School this Friday night, right?
Nah, I'm not doing that now.
Oh, come on. Well, you worried if somebody's going to see you?
No, here's the problem. And this is truth. I'm too fat. I'm too fat for TV. You look great.
But we position
one floating head, and I try to stay back. But when you see the size of me next to Ed, who looks great, it really does look like Andre the Giant's doing a show with Mean Gene Okerlund.
Mean Gene and Giant. Oh boy, if I'm getting compared to Mean Gene, I've come a long way since my earthquake days. So
you have. I need to make a public commitment to health, but it's just hard during these Steeler games. I stress eat, and next thing you know, I've had 5 cheese sticks, some Reese's peanut butter cups, and next thing you know, I weigh 390 pounds.
Double your.
I don't want to stand next to you. This would be like, I don't want to stand next to Taylor Swift on the red carpet. Imagine the monster that I look like next to anyone at this point. So maybe I'll appear like via a cartoon, or like maybe we'll do like if anybody out there can create like the Brian Carruthers puppet.
6 field goals by the Boz. That's right, Chris Boswell. 6 field goals today. The Steelers knock off the Dirty Birds 18-10 in Atlanta. Steelers 1-0. They will go to Denver next week at 4:30 to take on the Denver Broncos on the road.
And let me show you one more time. Here's the billboard. We just placed it on the Parkway. If you're just joining us, wait, there it is. All hail the Wizard of Boz. We'll put up some better pictures on Oneburg.
There it is. Make sure you check it out. That's going to do it for our Week 1 post-game show. You can join us here on Oneburg on our Facebook channel, Oneburg YouTube, or maybe you're listening on